Hey everyone, welcome back to another video, and in today's video, we're going to learn how to make this 3D printable, stackable, and foldable storage crate from start to finish. This is a design that I published about 2 to 3 years ago, and this design also got featured on the front page of Cults 3D. Previously, this is the design, or more specifically, a tutorial for my premium members within the Print to Product program, but in an effort to create high quality, straight to the point content for this channel, I'm going to show you guys exactly how I did it from start to finish, so that way you can make your own stackable and foldable storage crates inside Fusion 360. So with that said, open up a blank new canvas within Fusion, grab a cup of coffee, pen and paper, and let's go ahead and get started. In this module, we're going to learn how to design, create, and 3D print these stackable and foldable storage crates using Fusion and 3D printing. I would rank this course beginner to intermediate, as we'll be covering a variety of topics ranging from joints, arranging components, and patterns. And as always, if you get stuck or need help, make sure to join the weekly live Q&A calls within the group, or leave a post within the community with your Loom video and a category, and either I or another member will help you with your question. With that said, let's get started. Welcome to the very beginning of designing this 3D printable, stackable, and foldable storage crate. By now, you should open up a blank new canvas within Fusion 360. What we're going to do is to create a total of 4 components to start off this design. So let's go ahead and get started by clicking on Create, New Component, and let's go ahead and name the first component to Stackable and Foldable Crate. Press OK. From here, what we also want to do is to create a total of 3 subcomponents by clicking on Create, New Component, and let's go ahead and name this to Base and press OK. Toggling back on our top level component, Create, New Component, let's name this to Flap. Selecting the top level component, Create, New Component, and let's name this to Side. And by now, you should have a total of 3 components. If by any chance, if you have this with the anchor, just right click this, unground from parent. That way we can use this later on for more or less to use for as-built joints. But as of right now, we're going to work on the base for the product here. And the base is basically the bottom of the stackable and foldable storage crate. So to get started with this, what we're going to do is to create a sketch for this design. So we're going to click on Create a Sketch, select the bottom plane, select Create Rectangle. You're going to make sure you're using the center rectangle here. From the origin, drag this out. Let's set the distance of the sides to 178 millimeters, and setting the opposite side by selecting Tab and setting this to 127 millimeters. By now, you should have a profile set with these dimensions here, so go ahead if you haven't done so already. Selecting this profile, pressing E, let's set the extent type, or the distance, to 4.5 millimeters, and press OK. From here, you should have created a body, which is the base of our design. Selecting the top face, what we need to do is to create a profile that are going to sit on the longest sides of this design here, and one that's going to sit here in the center of our design as well, which is going to act as the flaps. Pressing O, select the edge of this product, type in -8.25. From here, you should have an offset of -8.25. So if any case this design ever changes in size, this is also going to stay static or more or less parametric to the distance shown here. After that's done, press enter. And now what we want to do is to finish off the sketch by creating more or less profiles that sit on the longest sides. So by pressing L from the bottom, close this off, and just basically creating a line where we drag it all the way to the edge. And by any case, if it's not completely straight, so just showing you as a demonstration, so let me just show you what this looks like. If you created a line where it's not completely straight, we can use the parallel feature within the constraints menu, select the line, select the edge, and now your line is completely parallel and basically just 90 degrees to the line here. From here, what we want to do is to select these 2 outer profiles and extrude this up. Pressing E, let's extrude this by 22.86 millimeters. Make sure the operation is set to join and press OK. By default, Fusion will automatically turn off the sketches after you've created a feature for them. So let's go ahead and turn it on by toggling on the base, sketches, select sketch 2, and now we see that we turned it back on. From here, let's go ahead and select the two profiles here. Select this profile, hold shift, select the opposite side, press E, and set the distance to 12.7 millimeters. Make sure the operation is set to join and press OK. Now you should have your four sides completely extruded. You have the two longest sides being taller than the two middle ones. Turn off the sketch. And now what we need to do here is to create a sketch or a cutout for the parts that are going to sit for the bars. So for our stackable and foldable storage crate, we have these bars that sit here as an opening or as a gap here. And more or less, these are the bars that connect to the flaps and as well as to the sides that allow it to fold in and basically to cave in on itself. So to do that, let's go ahead and create a sketch. Select the face here. And let's go ahead and reorient this to the right-hand side. So I'm currently on the right-hand view of the product, or more or less within our canvas here. So I'm going to start on this right side of the product. So to do that, let's go ahead and create a 2-point rectangle. Select the top and just drag it out till we can basically finish off a profile. We're not worried about the dimensions just yet, but I more or less just want to show you what we're doing right now and set this up so that way we have some dimensions set up later on. So to fix this up, currently you can see our square here, or our rectangle, is not centered up with our product. And one really cool and sneaky way of getting this and more or less fixing this so that we can basically align it in the center, we can start from the origin, find the midpoint of it. So pressing L, find the midpoint, and you can see if we hover around, you can see the midpoint starts to shoot out right around this area. And you want to select the midpoint of the product, set the parallel, select the line we just made, then the edge, and now you can see our rectangle is fully parallel with our design, and it sits right in the center of it. So meaning that if we were to change this, the other side will also change in accordance to that. And additionally, since this also reflects what's shown here, if we were to set a dimension from here to here, which we're going to set this to 13.3, the opposite side is also true. Let's set a dimension for the bottom and the top. Let's set this to 11.4. And let's go ahead and select the profile for this product. Press E. Let's revolve this around. Set the extent type to to object. Select the opposite side and press OK. Now you've successfully created a cutout where our bars are going to sit for this design. Let's go ahead and use a unique feature within Fusion called pattern on path. Press S, type in pattern on path. You can see we're shown a couple of options: pattern on path, circular pattern, create flat pattern, and rectangular pattern. We're going to use the first one. Select the last feature within our timeline. Select the path, which is going to be this top edge here. And let's set the extent or the distance to 63.5. Now, as you can see, we currently have the cutouts being portrayed in this kind of like opaque or this lowered opacity, or essentially kind of like a wireframe cutout of what it's going to look like. Now, to fix this, we want one that sits on the right-hand side and one that sits on the left. So let's set the direction to symmetric and press OK. Now you have these cutouts successfully made and created within the body of our base here. Let's also do the exact same thing for the flaps, or where our flaps are going to sit for our product here. So let's create a sketch, like the face here, and let's go ahead and zoom in. From here, let's press L on our keyboard. From the top to the bottom, make sure it's at a 90 degrees. From the top to the bottom, and make sure that's also 90 degrees as well. So what we want to do is press D on our keyboard, select this edge to this edge. Let's set the dimensions here to 4.45. And set the dimensions from this line to this line to 16 millimeters, and finish sketch. Selecting the profile, press E, set the extent type to to object, revolve this around, select the other side, and press OK. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and mirror this exact feature that we've made. So instead of creating a pattern on path, we're going to use the mirror feature within Fusion to mirror this onto the other side. Press S, type in mirror, select the last feature within our timeline, select the mirror plane, which is going to be basically our origin. And if you don't see it, you can just toggle on the original one. You can kind of see it in this kind of like lowered opacity kind of view. This is the one for the base, and there's also one for the main product here, but it doesn't matter which one you use. I'm just going to use the one shown here and just mirror it to the other side and press OK. Now you have the cutouts for the product plus the cutouts for the center where our flaps are going to sit as well. So the next thing we need to do here is to create the bars, because we need the flaps and the sides to snap into something, and the bars are going to be what essentially hold it together. So let's go ahead and zoom in, and this is the part where you're going to want to pay close attention because this part is incredibly important. So what we want to do is create a sketch, select the face, zoom in a little bit more so we can get a better look, create a center diameter circle. From the center, drag this out, and let's set this to about 2.75 millimeters and press enter. Press D, select the origin from the top. Let's set this to 4 millimeters. And from the origin to the right hand side, this is going to be 5 millimeters. Finish sketch, press E, select that profile, set the extend type to to object, revolve this around and select the opposite side and press join. Let's go ahead and mirror this once more by pressing S, type in mirror, select the last feature and the feature, which is what we created for the bar, mirror plane once more, and press OK. Now we have the bar successfully created for the bottom piece here. Let's go ahead and do the exact same thing, but for the middle section of this product here. So let's go ahead and zoom in, create a sketch, select the face, center diameter circle, once more, drag this out, and this is going to be about 3.175 millimeters. Once again, from the origin to the top, this is going to be about 4 millimeters, and from left to right is also going to be 4 millimeters as well. Pardon me, this is actually going to be 4.45 millimeters. So these are the dimensions for our product from top to bottom and from left to right. Pressing E once more, select this profile, set the extend type to to object, revolve this around, select the opposite face, and press join. Now we can zoom out just a bit and finish this up by creating another pattern on path for this product here. Pressing S, pattern on path, selecting the last feature within our timeline, selecting the path, which is going to be this top edge, and typing in the exact same distance once more. So if it was 63.5 on the previous one, it's also going to be the exact same thing here. Also setting direction to symmetric and press OK. And if by any chance it doesn't populate onto one or either both sides, we can go ahead and change the compute type to optimized and press OK. And now you can see Fusion has fixed that small bug that basically it wasn't there before, or it wasn't showing up before, and now it does. Now that we have this, we're basically almost done. We're about 90% of the way there. We just need to mirror these features that we made here on this side onto the other side, while also doing the exact same thing here onto this side as well. So let's start off with the flaps of this product. And the way we did this or made this design is that we actually scattered a lot of these features across different parts, meaning that what we made from this section here is scattered along this timeline. In the exact same way here, where we made certain features for this product here, is also scattered along. So they're not really one by one or in a specific order, or more or less in order, if that makes sense. So the perfect case about this is that Fusion 360 allows you to take different features along the timeline shown here at the bottom and select specific ones. So let's go ahead and do that by pressing S, type in mirror, and to show you a good example of this, what we're going to do is select the options or the objects that actually created the cutouts for this and the bars for this. And to find that, we're going to go in our timeline and we're just going ahead and just kind of browse through it and see which ones are related to what we just did there. So you're going to select the products here, holding command. You can see we're toggling on multiple features within our timeline. And we also need to select the cutouts for this. So it's going to be this one right here and this one. You can see now we selected 4 features, and they're not specifically in the right order in a sense. They're like in different orders. We can select the mirror plane, which is the middle, and press OK. Now, if by any chance it doesn't populate onto the other side, let's make sure to select the optimize feature. And now you can see Fusion has fixed that thing just now. Let's do the exact same thing here from this side onto the other side. Pressing S, type in mirror. Let's select the features relevant to this pattern we created here. And selecting the bars as well. So let's kind of take a look. And if by any chance, if you accidentally select something that isn't relevant to it, you can just deselect it by holding Command. And by default, it's going to untoggle it from your timeline. Go ahead and finish this up. Mirror plane, the middle, press OK. And now we have these features mirrored onto the opposite side of our base for our stackable and foldable storage crate. So by now you should have completed this design with the fully modeled base for this product here. You should have all the bars sitting on the longest side and as well as the shortest side, and you should basically have the general look for the base for our storage crate. Make sure to save this within Fusion 360 because if you don't, it may accidentally crash or close on you, and it has happened to me before. So make sure to either click Command S or either save it within your dialog box or within the option menu here. Shown at the very top left hand side. But like always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop a question down in the community tab of this program and or join the live Q&A calls. If you ever need help with any of these projects, those calls are specifically designed to help you get the answers you're looking for. So if you ever get stuck, you can always rely on those for help later on. Additionally, I know we also skipped around and did different portions of this design, and more or less this timeline could be much shorter if we did it more I guess in a sense with better design etiquette, but I really wanted you guys to get some good practice with around some of the features within Fusion and more or less some of the features that are really relevant to this design, because a lot of it is just repeat patterns and features and none of it is really too difficult. It's just a matter of knowing which features that are relevant to what you're trying to accomplish for this design. So hopefully you guys found this video insightful and informative and really good practice for you, as using these features are really useful for later projects that you'll find along this program and even in your own personal projects. So with that said, go ahead and save this and move on to the next part in this process once you've gotten this far. And with that said, I'll see you guys in the next module. Take care. Welcome back to the second portion of designing this 3D printable, stackable, and foldable storage crate. What we're going to do in this tutorial is get started with designing the flap for this product. By now, you should have completed the very first step, which is designing the base of this. Make sure to do that if you haven't done so already. With that said, let's go ahead and get started with this design by transitioning over to our flap components. And right now, you should be working on within the flap component, which will automatically turn the previous one or the base of this into kind of like a mid wireframe one. From here, let's go ahead and create a sketch. Select the face here. Let's reorient this to the front. And let's go ahead and draw out a 2-point rectangle. Now, don't worry about making this perfect. All we're doing is setting up the sketch for now. And now what we can do is set up some dimensions for this. So from the bottom edge to this edge here, this is going to be about 0.3 millimeters. From the edge to the edge there, or from the body edges to the sketch edge, this is going to be 1 millimeter. And the other side is also going to be the exact same thing as well. And I can also use the one that I made on the left as a reference. So this will also be 1. Now the height of this is going to be 61 millimeters. And now you should have something that looks like this. If we're to press E on our keyboard, select this profile, set the direction to 2 sides. Now we have the option of setting up some directions for this product. The first direction going out, and meaning going out in terms of outside of the base, this is going to be 1 millimeter. Now the direction going in, this is going to be 8 millimeters. Make sure to take a good look. Make sure you have the exact settings for this. Once everything checks out, press OK. The next thing we need to do here is to create the feet for this design. Create a sketch. Select this face. Let's zoom right in. Draw a 2-point rectangle from this edge, following all the way across. And there you have it. Now, the top to bottom, this edge to this edge, that's going to be 11 millimeters. From the left to the right-hand side, so making sure to select the body edge first and then the sketch edge. That's going to be 0.5 millimeters. And then the opposite side is also true. Once you have that, the cool thing about Fusion is that we can also use the mirror feature within Fusion to also mirror sketches. Pressing S, type in mirror. You can see the mirror sketch option appears within our shortcuts menu on top of the shaded one for the bottom. Let's use the sketch one. Select the lines that we made for the sketch. Mirror line. Now the mirror line is going to be whatever we can use as a reference. For now, we don't have one. So let's go ahead and draw one. Pressing L. Select the center all the way across. Repeating once more, pressing S. Type in mirror. Selecting the lines once more. Mirror line. Then the edge or the line there. And press OK. Now you have that. Select these two profiles. Press E. Turn off the base. Set the extend type to toObject. Revolve this around. And let's go ahead and press OK and make sure the operation is set to join. Now that you have that, you have the basic look for our flap for our product. You have the flap with the 2 feet that sit on the bottom, and then you have the base of this design. Now, what we need to do is to create a cutout where our bars are going to sit in, because currently right now, this is just one solid piece. And to make this work is that we need to have a cutout where the bars are going to connect to the legs, but we also need something that's going to allow it to snap in, and also make sure that it doesn't fall out, especially during the use. So let's turn off the base for now. Let's create a sketch. Select this face, and let's draw a center diameter circle. Now, the circle diameter is actually going to be 2.9 millimeters. The center from this edge, this is going to be about 4.25. And from this edge to this edge here, that's going to be 4.75. And what I'm also going to do is actually raise this just a little bit higher, so maybe to about 3. What I'm also going to do is to create 2 lines going straight across, and these are going to be lines that are going to create a profile for this design. So let's go ahead and draw this straight across, and let's not worry about making a tangent right now. We're just drawing this just straight across to this. And what we can use is the tangent feature within Fusion, selecting this line to the circle, and now this line and this circle, and these are completely tangent to each other. In addition to that, let's also make them parallel. And they might be over constraint, so that's good. So now we know this is completely going straight across in a 90-degree angle from here. Selecting this profile from here to here, pressing E, set the extend type to toObject, revolve this around, cut into the opposite side, and press OK. Now that you have that, you have the basic look for our feet for our flaps within Fusion. The next thing we need to do here is to add the piece that's going to allow it to snap in. Let's create a sketch. Select the bottom face here underneath where the feet sit. And zoom in just to get a better look. Create a 2-point rectangle from the edge of the top going straight across. Let's set up a dimension for this rectangle here. Pressing D. Set the distance from this edge to this edge. This is going to be about 1.2 millimeters. Pressing E, select that profile. Let's go ahead and extrude this out to about 0.6 millimeters and press OK. From here, what we can also do is add a chamfer for this. Pressing S, type in chamfer. And what this is going to allow us to do, so I'm going to set a chamfer to about 0.75, is that whenever we want to move the base into the product itself, you can see that that little piece that we have there, although quite small, actually makes a big difference. So if you were to imagine, so don't use this or don't actually do this, I'm just showing this as a reference, the bar is going to snap in, and as the force of you pushing it in happens, this bottom piece is going to extend out just a bit or kind of flex in such a way where it's going to allow it to just snap in. But also, since there's this bar or this flat corner sitting at the very top, it's not going to allow it to come out without some sort of force or without you breaking the product. So with that said, let's go ahead and mirror this to the other side. Pressing S, type in mirror. Select the last 2 features within our timeline. Select the mirror plane, which is the center of our origin, and press OK. Now that you made it this far, what we need to do is to add a fillet to this bottom edge here. So basically to make it look a little bit better. Pressing F, select this edge to this edge here, and I would set this to about, let's just say 6 millimeters, or actually maybe 5 millimeters instead. Cool. Now you made it this far. Let's turn on our base. Let's take a good look. And you can see now we have the bar sitting directly in the center of where the opening is for our feet. And if you also wanted to take a look here, we can use our section analysis tool. Use it on this face. You can see that's kind of like the general idea here. Now, one thing about this design so far is that we can actually use the projection feature from our base if you know how to use projections, meaning that you can project sketches shown within the base and use it as a reference for our new component here. Now, just as additional note, we're not doing that in this tutorial because that's an entirely different thing, but it's still relevant and that would make it much more parametric. But if you guys are curious about that, feel free to let me know in the community tab or on the live Q&A calls as I'm willing to explain more about that. But for now, this is more or less good practice as to getting used to some of the features within Fusion, since most of the features provided here is just basic repeatable processes. So let's go ahead and turn off our analysis if you created one. And let's also go ahead and create the pegs for the parts that sit here in the very front. So let's create a sketch, select the front face, let's reorient to the front. And now what we want to do is to create a line from the very center of the midpoint, going all the way on top. Make sure that this line is parallel to the edge. And also creating some lines here in the center, going down, drawing it to the left. And I'm also going to make sure this is parallel. And also doing this once more from this edge all the way across. Now what we're going to do is set up some dimensions for this. Pressing D, select this and this. This is going to be about 8.5 millimeters. This is going to be about 4.3 millimeters. And this is going to be about 5.5. From here, let's go ahead and mirror this exact same sketch onto the other side. Pressing L from the midpoint of this face here, going all the way up. Pressing S, type in mirror. Select these sketches for this design. Select the mirror line, which is the one we just created. And now we've successfully mirrored this onto the other side. And additionally, if we ever make changes to this, let's just say this is 5 for whatever reason, the opposite side is also true. Select these two profiles. Let's extrude this in by about -4 millimeters. And make sure the operation is set to cut and press OK. The next thing we need to do here is to create the pegs for this design. So let's go ahead and create another sketch. Select the side. And let's draw out a total of 4 lines. From the center, going all the way down. Create one from here to here. From here to here, and here to here. And let's actually create one more because I misspoke. It's actually a total of 5 lines. The first line from the line to the edge is going to be about 5 millimeters. The second one is going to be 12.5 millimeters. The third one is also going to be the same. And the last one is also the same as well. From here, pressing E on our keyboard, select the 2 profiles here. This will be our pegs for this design. And let's go ahead and extrude this out by about 4.75 millimeters. Press OK. From here, pressing S on our keyboard, type in mirror, select the last feature within our timeline, select the mirror plane, which is the origin plane we have here, and press OK. Now you should have the 2 pegs that sit on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. The next thing we need to do here is just to create the opening for the handle, and as well as a cutout here if you plan to use any sort of features or patterns later on. So to do that, let's go ahead and create a sketch, reorient to the back, and let's draw a 2-point rectangle on this face here. From the top, going all the way across, the first dimension here from the top to this edge here, that's going to be about 6 millimeters. Now from the bottom to the top here, that's going to be 20 millimeters. And what I'm also going to do to center this rectangle to the center or the midpoint is just find the midpoint of this face and also find the midpoint for this one here. And then using the parallel constraints feature within Fusion, selecting this line to any edge. And now this is completely centered up, which is perfect because this is what we're trying to accomplish for this design. Pressing D, let's set up a dimension from this line to this line. And this is going to be 25 millimeters. So now the opposite is also true. Pressing E, select the profile, setting the extent type to to object, revolve this around, selecting the opposite side, and press OK. Make sure the operation is set to cut so we can create this cutout for this. And now that's all that's left to do is just to create a fillet for this piece here and a chamfer for the top. Pressing S, type in fillets. Now the radius of the fillet doesn't really matter, more specifically because this is just a handle. I'm going to just set this to 7.5. And I'm also going to create a chamfer for this. And I'm going to set the chamfer to, let's just say, a 2.5. And now you have the handle for our stackable and foldable storage crate. Additionally, to create the cutout here for patterns, let's go ahead and create a sketch. Select the front face. And let's go ahead and draw this out. So let's create a line from the midpoint going all the way up. And let's go ahead and draw out some lines that make sure that they are parallel to the product itself. And if they're not parallel, just use the parallel constraints feature within Fusion. And now you should have something that looks like this. Let's set up some dimensions for this here. The one from this edge to this edge. This is going to be 14. From this edge to this top edge, 8.5. And if it happens to shift or move, you can just remove it by holding on to the line and just moving it around. And from the bottom to the edge, let's make that a 5. Additionally, I'm also going to set a dimension here. This could be, let's just say, a 3. And there you have it. From here, we can take this profile, press E, and we can type in an extrusion value of, let's just say, -4 millimeters. Make sure the operation is set to cut and press OK. Let's go ahead and mirror this feature to the other side, pressing S, type in mirror, select the last feature, select the mirror plane, select the origin, press OK. And now you have the cutout for our stackable and foldable storage crate for the flap. And this is going to be the piece that we use more or less to add some patterns to this. And you really don't need to have this, but I think it looks a little bit cooler with this sort of cutout or feature added here. So if you made it this far, you've successfully completed the flap. By now you should have created the overall design of the flap, the 2 feet at the bottom with the cutouts for the bars, and as well as the 2 pegs that sit on the left and the right hand side, and the handle for this product as well. So if you made it this far, feel free to move on to the next video. If you have any questions, make sure to drop it within the community tab of this program. The whole goal of this program is to help you learn how to design your own models and products. And if you ever gotten stuck or got stuck on any of this process, make sure to drop a question with your Loom video, as it helps us out a lot figure out how to solve your problem and more or less get you answers to your the issues that you're having. So with that said, go ahead and save this within Fusion 360 and move on to the next video once you're ready to get started. Thanks. Okay, so welcome back to another tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to get started working on the sides for this storage crate. Now, by now, you should have fully modeled the base of this design, and as well as the flap that folds down to the very front. From here, we'll be working on the sides, so let's go ahead and toggle on the side component. Let's go ahead and create a sketch by clicking on Create Sketch. And then selecting the face, it can either be on the left, on the right-hand side. I'm going to use the left-hand side as just to continue it for continuity. From here, what we want to do is turn off the flap for now since we don't need it. And what we want to do is to create a 2-point rectangle. From here, let's go ahead and draw this out. And all we're doing is just essentially drawing it out. We'll set up some dimensions shortly. And from here, what we want to do is dimension the top to the bottom. That's going to be 51 millimeters. And from left to right, that's going to be 185. From here, let's also set a dimension from the bottom. So in order to make this work, you're going to be dimensioning the edge of this. So we're going to be dimensioning the sketch line to the edge line, which is the model itself. This is going to be about 0.8 millimeters. And let's go ahead and reorient this so it lines up just in the center. Now, the best way to line this up in the center is what we can do is create a line going from the origin, finding the midpoint. So the midpoint's right around here. We could even turn this into a construction line since we're not going to be using this. And then from here, we can use the parallel feature within Fusion, select the construction line, then any edge at the bottom. And now our sketch is fully constrained and nothing is going to move at all no matter what we do. The next thing we need to do here is to create some cutouts for the pieces that fit into here. So for example, our storage crate actually folds down inwards here, but it also stacks. Now the stacking feature is something that we add on later on in a future video, but it's essentially a small little peg that sits on the bottle, the model itself at the very bottom that basically cuts through right here. Now in order to do that, we need to make sure we have a cutout for that peg that sits here. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So to do that, let's go ahead and create a 2-point rectangle from the bottom all the way to the edge. And we're not making this perfect. All we're doing is just drawing it out. And what we want to do is set up some dimensions for this, pressing D on our keyboard, selecting this edge to this bottom edge, and make sure you're selecting the sketch edge, not the model edge itself. This is going to be 5 millimeters from here to here, and make sure it's the model edge to the sketch edge. That's going to be 4 millimeters. And then from right to left, once again, and we'll also use this as a reference just for fun. From here, we can mirror that sketch onto the other side, pressing S, type in mirror. Once more, make sure to select the sketch mirror feature. Select the sketch that we just made, double click on it. Select the mirror line. The mirror line is the construction line that we just created, and press OK. Now that we have that, make sure the sketch that you have here matches up with the sketch as shown in the images down below underneath this video. From here, we're going to take this sketch and make sure you're selecting the profile of it and not these two small profiles we just created. And from here, pressing E. And what we want to do is just drag this off to the other side. And you can see our dimension here is set to -8.25. In this instance, what we want to do is set the distance, or excuse me, the extent type to toObject. That way it matches up with the other side. And press OK. Now that you have that, you have the basic look for the side profile of our design. And the next few steps here are going to require us to, one, create the handles or the feet that actually connect to the bars at the bottom, and as well as creating some sort of loop where it's able to wrap around this profile here of this flap. So that way when we fold it back up, it actually kind of snaps in place or locks in place, giving you that stackable, that folding storage crate effect. So to do that, let's go ahead and get started with the easiest one, which is the feet for this design. So let's go ahead and turn off our flap since we don't need it. From here, let's create a sketch. Select the front face. Let's draw a 2-point rectangle from the edge all the way across. And let's set up some dimensions for this. The dimension from the bottom edge for the model to the top edge here, this is going to be about 2.5. And from side to side, let's just say 0.5 millimeters. And there you go. Now you have the basic sketch for our feet that's going to sit at the bottom. Pressing E, select the profile, revolve this around, set the extent type to toObject, match the top face, and press OK. Now you have the basic look for our feet for our design. Okay, so the next thing we need to do here is to create the cutouts for the feet at the bottom. So for now, currently our feet that sit here, they are not intersecting with the bar here, meaning that they're not going to snap on since this model has not have an opening for the feet here. So to fix that, what we can do is use a really cool feature within Fusion called project. And what this allows us to do is to project sketches and profiles and faces that exist in a different environment or different components and use that towards a new one. So for example, let me just show you what this looks like. So the first thing you want to do is turn off the base for now, create a sketch, select the face here, And now that we're in the sketch environment, this means that we're currently sketching on this plane or on this face only. And as you can see, our grid is currently on this face. Now, what we can do is use or a sketch or any feature on an existing component and push that and project it onto another plane or essentially a different area, if that makes sense. So for example, let's turn on the base of this design. Let's press S, type in project. Now, if you take a look, you can see now when we are sketching and then we're in the project environment, we can select essentially hover over edges shown here, and it's going to project onto this edge or this kind of like plane that we have here, and it's shown in red. Now, from here, what we actually want is this small little edge that sits in the center of our bar, and the bar, that's basically the edge that wraps around the bar. If you were to select that, and if you want a better look, you can turn off the side, but you can see this piece right here. You can see how it's highlighting within our environment. It's going to toggle on. You can see if I were to hover off of it, it toggles off. If I hover on it, it toggles back on. This piece, this bar is what we want. Now, the reason why this is important, I'm going to select OK, is that the reason why is because let's just say, for example, we were to ever change the bar dimensions, like for example, we moved the bar up for any reason, or to the left, or to the right, or maybe it didn't print well, maybe you want to extend the bar even further, whatever. If the bar changes in any direction when we're modeling the base, when we set those dimensions, it's also going to reflect in this projection as well. So it's basically like kind of referencing each other. So they basically stay in accordance to each other, if that makes sense. Now from here, let's go ahead and finish this up by drawing two lines and just draw it to the very edge and make sure they're parallel to everything. Make sure they're congruent or tangent as well. And I'm just going to make sure, double check, make sure they're parallel. And there you go. From here, selecting this profile and dragging it all the way across. And we can select this to a 2 object. Press OK. Now, one thing about this is that although we're projecting, that means that the bar is the exact same width, or the radius or the diameter of the bar is the exact same, excuse me, the projection we made, the diameter of that is the exact same as the bar here. So one thing we can do is that we can turn off our base and we can use the press pull feature within Fusion. Right click, press pull, and we can type in a value of -0., let's just say 3. And now we have a much wider opening for our bar to sit in. And also when we 3D print this, due to how clearances work, we want to make sure we have enough space for that bar to kind of slide into the groove of this foot here. After that, press OK. And if you were to turn on our base, once again, you can kind of see there's a little bit more space for the bar to sit in. And this is what you should have so far. The next thing we need to do is to create something that's going to allow the bar to lock in once it snaps in. So let's create a sketch. Select the bottom face. Select a 2-point rectangle from one edge going all the way across. And let's set a dimension from this edge to this edge here. Let's set this to, let's just say 1.5. And pressing E on your keyboard, select that profile. Let's drag this down to about 0.6 millimeters and press join. From here, now you have the kind of inlay here, or this piece that's going to allow the bar to sit in. But one thing we want to do is to create a chamfer for this so that there's a way for it to slide in and not get stuck here at the very front. So pressing S, type in chamfer, select this edge, let's chamfer this in, let's just say about 0.5. Let's try 1. And what I'm essentially looking for is that when we chamfer this, this is not a straight edge, meaning that we don't want this here. Because if we were to 3D print this like this means that there's going to be a lot of loose layer lines here that are not going to really stick on too well. So we kind of want some sort of edge where it sits like there's enough surface area here for it to kind of print nice and smoothly. So I'd say around 1 millimeters or maybe a 0.75. Doesn't really matter as long as we're able to fit the bar in. From here, what we want to do is using the feature called pattern on path, just like we used prior, pressing S, type in pattern, pattern on path, Select the last few features. So the features that we use within our timeline is going to be the chamfer. It's going to be use the extrude and the projection, and as well as the extrude for the feet as well. Set the path. The path is going to be, let's just say, the largest one. So I'm going to select this inner edge here. Set the direction to symmetric and just basically drag it out till we match up with our design. From here, I'm going to set this to around 145, and it looks like it's not matching up accordingly, so maybe 144. And from here, I'm just kind of eyeballing most of this, so 144.5, 0.25, and that looks good to me. And press OK. Now you have all the features now completely modeled on the left and the right hand side. You could model this a little differently by using maybe the mirror feature. For example, you could create one here and then mirror that to the other side and then create this on individually. It's totally up to you. There's many ways to create the feet. What I'm doing here is just eyeballing the pattern on path and then using the references here. So if this reference here for the bar for this base profile ever changes, this will also reflect on everything else later on, which is perfect because that's what we want to keep things parametric. From here, the next thing we need to do here is to finish up by creating the piece that's going to cut into the flap itself. And by cut, I don't mean cut into it, but meaning that it's going to intersect. So when we fold this piece up, it locks in place with the side. So that way we can actually use it as a functional product, and that way it stacks and folds. So to do that, let's go ahead and create a sketch by turning off the flap, create a sketch, select the face here. And from here, what you want to do is to create a 2-point rectangle, drawing this out all the way to the bottom, and make sure it's not a midpoint. So I accidentally selected it. And let's set the distance from left to right to 3.5 millimeters. From here, pressing E, select the profile, select the flap, and what we want to do is just extrude this all the way across. So you can see our distance here is 9.5. What I'm probably going to do is set it to 2 object, select this profile, and let's see if we can add an equation here. So maybe negative 0.2. Okay, so it's not going to let us. So let's go ahead and select this profile again, select the flap. So I'm probably going to set this to a 9.4. That way there's a little bit of space just in case for our design here. Press enter. Next is to create the cutout for these pieces here. So for example, our flap here has these 2 pegs that sit here. This is where the pieces are going to intersect. So to do that, let's go ahead and create a sketch on our side. Create sketch, select the front face. Let's turn off the side for now. Pressing S, type in project. Let's go ahead and select the edges here of our pegs. Let's turn on this side for now. And now you have the projected features onto the side profile of our design. From here, let's create a line going all the way to the edge and just finish this up so we can create a closed profile. And from here, selecting these profiles, turn off the flap. And what we want to do is just cut into it just like so. Press cut and press OK. Now that you have that, let's go ahead and finish this up by pressing S, type in fillet, select these edges here so we can round it out, make it look a little bit nicer. And let's just fillet this in, say maybe at 8.5. And we can also add a chamfer. Now this chamfer isn't really necessary, but I'm going to add one anyway. Pressing S, type in chamfer, like this edge, and maybe a 1.5. Maybe even a 3. I'd probably leave it at a 2 instead. And there you have it. From here, select the flap. Now, one thing about this design is that it currently, since the flap folds up, it's going to leave a little bit of space here. Now, the kind of thing that we're hedging on is that when we fold this out, is going to kind of snap in place or lock in with the opening of our design here. Now, one additional thing we also need to add is some sort of open space for the gap for this little peg here, since it's currently the exact dimensions. So from here, let's go ahead and set that up. So turning off our flap, selecting the face, and the bottom. Right click, press pull, set this to -0.4. Now for to turn on our flap, see now there's a lot more space. Perfect. Additionally, from here, if you also wanted to extend this dimension here, so for example, this is currently a 3.5. You could set this to maybe a 4.5 and it should work just fine. The idea is that when this flap folds up, the pegs basically act as a mechanism, like a mechanical mechanism that attaches to this. And you really don't need anything for it to snap into. It's just more so the tension of, for example, gravity pulling on this is going to lock it in place, if that makes sense. So you're not really locking anything in place. You're just more or less having them fold into each other, and then that's how they stay in place. For now, I'm going to just leave it as a 3.5, which should work just fine. You can also do a 4.5, but it's totally up to you. From here, let's go ahead and mirror the features onto the other side, pressing S, type in mirror, and selecting the last few features that make up this side here. So I'd say it's all of these and this one. Mirror, midplane, and it might give us an error, so let's double check. And it seems to be good. So it looks like it worked out just in our favor. So no errors on Fusion. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But the idea here is that you fully modeled the side profile of this product and this design. And this is what we're looking for. So we could technically call it a day. It's pretty much done. The only thing here is that it's missing some design patterns and features, and as well as the stackable portion of this, but we'll cover that in the next few videos. But the whole idea is that you have a stackable foldable storage crate that we can use. And to finish this off, I'm also going to add an as-built joint. So let's go ahead and turn on our main component, pressing S, type in as-built joint, selecting this body here, and then the bottom base. And by using this feature, we're going to set the motion type to revolute. And from here, what we want to do is search for the middle of our design of the bar. So you can see it's kind of highlighting here. If we select this face here, holding Control or Command on Windows, you can kind of see now we're hovering into it without having to turn off the flap. And now from here, you can see our model is revolving all around our design. We can also set motion limits, but for now, let's just leave it as is. Don't worry about that for now. And now if we were to revolve this, you can see that now this is going to revolve into our product. I'm doing the exact same thing for the other side, pressing S, type in as-built joint, the side and the bottom. Once again, holding Control on Mac, on Windows, it might be something else, and pressing OK. And there you have it. Now you have your stackable and foldable, or your foldable storage crate for now. One thing I did forget to add as well is the portion for these chamfers here. So let's go ahead and add that. Sort of turn off our base so I can get a better look. Pressing S, fillet. Selecting this edge here so we can fillet this in, make it a little look a little nicer. 2.5. And there you go. Now, as you can see, if we were to fold this in as well, now we have our design fully modeled within Fusion. And of course, there will be some kinks along the way, so don't worry if it prints and it doesn't work out the first time. You can see one thing that we're mentioning, or that I'm seeing here, is that this flap is intersecting with this piece here. So if we're to use a section analysis, and just to make sure, you can kind of see the flap folds in just perfectly until we reach the piece here. So of course, with Fusion, the cool thing about this is that we can go back in time and it won't reflect or change any of those things. But for now, let's just leave it as is. Let's leave the issues and the kinks as is. So that way we can fix everything up towards the end and clean it all up. But that's pretty much it. Hopefully this video has been insightful and informative. It looks like there's an issue here. There it is. And there you have it. So now you have your foldable storage crate. The only few things that we need to add next is the stackable portion, some designs to this, and then work out some kinks to fix up this design in its entirety. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the community section and or join the live Q&A calls if any of this is unclear, or maybe if you need some clarity on the design itself. But feel free to check in every once in a while and ask questions within the community and or join the Q&A calls, as this group is purely designed to help you learn how to design your own products and even make them sellable at some point. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Hey, really quickly, if you're enjoying this tutorial, make sure to like and subscribe down below. Additionally, if you want to get access to more tutorials just like this, I'm hosting the 14-day design challenge. In this group, we host daily challenges showing you exactly how to design your own models for 3D printing. In addition, when you sign up, you also get access to our STL files and all the new tutorials and resources available for you as a member. The best part is that if you ever get stuck or need help, you can always ask other members within the community, so that way you don't have to spend weeks to months trying to figure all this stuff out. If you'd like to join the community, check out the 14-day challenge down below in the description. But with that said, let's go ahead and continue on with today's tutorial. Okay, so welcome to part 4 of designing this 3D printable, stackable, and foldable storage crate. Now, to finish up this design, we're going to go ahead and add the features for this product here. So for here, what we're going to do is want to toggle off the flap and toggle off the side and toggle on the base for now. From here, we're going to create the pieces, the pegs that sit at the top that allow it to stack when this product is completely folded. So let's go ahead and reorient this, create a sketch, select this top face, and let's go ahead and draw out a 2-point rectangle from the edge going all the way across and set it there. Let's set some dimensions from the top to bottom. This will be 4. From left to right will be 12. And the same applies on the right hand side. Now you could make this a little larger, so I'd say in this instance I probably would make it 6 instead. So I think 6 would look a lot better. Taking that profile, pressing E. Let's set the distance here to about 3 millimeters and press OK. Let's double check and confirm that our side profile or our side model doesn't intersect. So you can see this small peg that sits here at the bottom doesn't intersect it. So we can actually raise this up a little bit higher if we wanted to, maybe about a 5. 5 might be too close, maybe a 4. 4 millimeters looks just as good. From here, let's turn off the side and then mirror this feature onto all 4 sides here. Now, one way you can do this is just by going ahead and just creating a sketch on top of each face, but we can also use the mirror feature by pressing S, type in mirror, and then selecting the last feature in our timeline, mirror plane, which is the middle of this piece here, press OK. Repeating the mirror feature once again, selecting the last 2 features, mirror plane, middle plane, press OK. Now you have the pieces that allow it to stack for this stackable and foldable storage crate. Now the thing we need to do is to create the pieces that sit here at the bottom, or the openings for the bottom. So to do that, let's go ahead and create a sketch at the very bottom. Press S, type in project, and make sure you're in the sketch environment. And what we're going to do is select these faces here. So that way we can project our newly created extrude all the way at the bottom. And we can use that to create the insert for the pegs there. Pressing E on your keyboard, select the newly created profiles. And since the top is 4 millimeters, we'll just go ahead and match that as well. Press OK. Now that we have this, we need to go ahead and make sure that there's enough space for these pegs to fit. Because currently right now, if we were to 3D print this, due to the way clearances work within 3D printing, especially since filament does expand and contract, especially when it's heating up and cooling down, we need to make sure that these will be able to essentially fit in place, especially with this model scaling up or down, depending on how you choose to scale it. So to do that, let's go ahead and orient to the bottom. And let's go ahead and select or right click on one of these faces here. From here, just go ahead and select all the faces that pertain to that inner cutout. And what we're going to do is press pull this by about -0.25. Now we could put this up to maybe a -0.3. Doesn't really matter. just more so enough where it's snug for the peg to fit, but just big enough for it to kind of slide in, if that makes sense. Now, if you were to hold Command on Mac, on Windows, it might be Control. You can go ahead and select the other faces on the other side. Just make sure not to select the wrong one. Holding Command, and then going all the way around and selecting the pieces that are relevant to what we're trying to do. Now that we have that, if you can see, if I turn off Control or Command, you can see it shows the previous option. Now with this newly created press pull, now they're a little bit wider. Press Enter, and there you go. If we were to double check, I'm gonna press M on my keyboard. Now you don't have to do this. I'm just using this as a reference. Create a copy, move this up. I'm gonna use the section analysis feature within Fusion. Now if we could take a look, you can see now our cutout here has plenty of space for the peg that we created at the bottom, which is what we're looking for. We'll go ahead and undo that since we don't need that. The next thing we need to do here is to create the same, but for the flap itself. So currently there's a feature for it to stack when it's folded. So this is the parts or the pegs that relate to it when it's folded. But what about when you unfold it and it's essentially in its regular or default form? So to do that, we need to go ahead and switch to the flap. And we can just have the base toggled on for now, but we're going to switch to the flap, make sure the flap component is selected. Let's go ahead and do the exact same thing, but for this top face here for our flap. Selecting the top face, let's zoom in just a bit, pressing L, find the midpoint, and we'll just use this as a reference. This won't be useful for other than using this as a reference. Create a 2-point rectangle all the way across from left to right. 15, right to left, that would be 15 as well. Now from the bottom to top, 4, and there you have it. Let's go ahead and create another one for the right-hand side. Now you could mirror this. It's totally up to you how you want to do this. I'm going to just do it the regular way of just sketching it out since it's on the same face. And there you have it. Press E on your keyboard, select these 2 profiles, and let's go ahead and extrude this up by, let's just say, 4 millimeters. Now, in this case, we also want to make sure that this piece here, since this is going to stack underneath this, we also want to make sure this doesn't intersect or cut in too much with the base. So for now, we'll just leave it as is, and we'll check later on to see if it does. But to finish this up, we need to go ahead and create another profile or another projection from this top flap all the way to the bottom, just to double check. So let's toggle on our base, create a sketch, revolve underneath this, create another sketch, or on that face there, excuse me, pressing S, type in project, select the top faces for our created pegs, press enter, pressing E on your keyboard, select the top profiles, or the projected profiles, excuse me, type in -4, and now as you can see, there is our newly created cutout for our pieces here. Press enter, do the exact same thing you did for the sides. Now we're going to do the exact same thing for here. And just clicking and selecting the pieces where we're going to press pull for this design. It's going to be -0.25. And the exact same thing on here. Now, if I already used command, you can see going back, there's the shrunk down piece or the default size. Now with this press pull, it's a little larger. Let's go ahead and mirror that feature to the other side, pressing S, type in mirror, select the last 2 features, which is our press pull and the extrude, mirror plane, which is the middle, and press OK. Now, just to double check, we're going to move this piece here to the bottom, use a section analysis, and just confirming that what we're doing here actually fits into each other. And there you go. One thing you do notice here is that this bottom base, it looks to be too small. So to fix that, if it's not according to how you like it, technically that would be just okay if you're printing it at this size. But if you were to scale this down, it very likely would be an issue. So what we would realistically need to do is just adjust the size of the pegs for the flap itself. So instead of maybe a 4, let's do a 3. And then back to our base, this would be a 3 as well. Now that gives us a little bit more space and a lot more surface area, or I guess the thickness of the wall underneath is a little bit thicker, which is what we're looking for. With that all said and done, let's go ahead and finish this up. Let's toggle on our side. Let's turn on our flap. And one last thing to do here, it's totally optional, but I'm gonna just go ahead and add a fillet, pressing F, select the edges here, and I'm just fillet this in. And you can fillet this into however much you want. So maybe about a 11.5. It's totally up to you. It's not really important. It's just more so when we do add some patterns to this design, you can have some surface area here to work with, and as well as on the sides as well. So this is pretty much it for the tutorial. Feel free to drop a comment or leave a comment within the group itself if you have any questions. By now, you should have the fully completed 3D printable, stackable, and foldable storage crate. In the next video, we're going to cover some last minute details, more like adding patterns, and then finish up this design by making sure that everything checks out in terms of the model itself before 3D printing, and mainly specifically around these areas where it folds down and making sure nothing intersects, which can be an issue, especially once you 3D print it and you see the issues that come up. But that's why we double check before we print anything. So with that said, in the next video, we'll cover adding patterns to this. You can add your own unique patterns and designs to the flap and the sides. I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, so welcome back to another Fusion 360 tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to finish up this design by adding some patterns to this. Now, technically, this design is pretty much done right before we add some final touches in the next video, but this video is going to cover adding some patterns to the sides of this product here, and as well as to the front flap. That way we give it a little bit of more of a personality. So from here, let's go ahead and reorient to the flap itself, create a sketch, select the front face, and what I'm going to do is create the pattern for a typical storage crate. So by pressing L on our keyboard, we're going to go ahead and draw out a rectangle here, all the way up to the bottom. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to use the parallel constraints feature within Fusion, parallel from left to right and from top to bottom. And we're going to set it some dimensions from left to right. This will be 5, and from top to bottom, this will be 10. From here, let's go ahead and drag this around by double clicking, and you can go ahead and move this around anywhere you like. Pressing S, type in fillet, select each corner of the sketch here, and I'm set this to around 2 millimeters and press OK. From here, pressing S, type in pattern on the sketch shortcuts. Let's select the rectangular pattern. And now what we're going to do is take that design, that sketch, and just drag it out all the way to the middle. Repeat the exact same thing, going down. And then what we could do is increase the quantity within the rectangular pattern feature within Fusion. Let's just say from 3 to 6. And then the quantity from top to bottom to 4. Press OK. Now that you have this, we can go ahead and create a line from the center, going up. And what we're going to do is mirror this sketch to the other side. Now, there's 2 ways you can do this. You can either, one, you can individually select each and every single sketch and mirror that to the other side, or you can just extrude each profile and then mirror that to the opposite side as well. Pressing E, set the object or the extent type to to object, select the opposite side, press OK. Now that you have this, press S, type in mirror, select the last feature, select the mirror plane. The mirror plane's in the middle, and there you have it. Now you have the storage crate pattern on the left-hand side, and if you like, you can also make changes so that way it kind of meets up closer to the center by selecting the rectangular feature here. Now it's kind of hidden, but you kind of have to zoom in. You can double click on that. You can just drag it out just a little bit more. And that way when you finish sketch, it meets up a little bit closer to the center. After that's done, make sure to save. Then what we want to do is switch over to the flap and repeat the exact same thing. Now from here, let's go ahead and create a sketch. Select the front face. Get a better look. Create a line from the center going all the way down. Let's draw out a rectangle once again. Use the parallel feature constraints. And let's set some dimensions for this. It's going to be a 10. And left to right, that would be a 5. And I might actually make this an 8 just because of the size of this thing here. Repeating the exact same thing, add a fillet. Setting this to 2. And what we want to do is just create another pattern on path or rectangular pattern, pressing S, type in rectangular pattern, make sure it's the sketch rectangular pattern. Selecting this sketch, drag it out once more, and drag it back down. And then just increasing the quantity till it matches the entire design. Press OK. If you wanted to, you can also change the sizing of this if you don't like it. So I'm probably going to change it myself and just adjust it accordingly. From here, what we want to do is just take these profiles, make sure to select the right ones, even the ones that are cut underneath here. Press E, extend type to to object, revolve this around. Press OK. The exact same thing, pressing S, type in mirror, select the last feature, mirror plane, and then from here, mirror this to the opposite side. And there you have it. If you wanted to rotate this a little bit more, you could, pressing M, rotate this around, move this to your liking, and then from here, finish sketch. And now you have the pattern fully designed for the front flap here. Now, of course, you can add whatever pattern you like. It's truly up to you how you want to design this. I would, in this case, probably make this a little bit smaller, maybe instead of a 10, maybe an 8. That way it takes up a little bit less surface area for the cutouts. But the idea here is that we make this fully 3D printed, stackable, and foldable storage crate with some patterns, with some unique features to it. So that way when we print this out, it looks a little bit nicer with some more personality. And you can also use SVGs found online to create some patterns on the sides and in the front. So that way you can kind of customize this to your liking. But that pretty much wraps it up for the stackable and foldable storage crate. What we're going to do in the next video is just clean up this design, make sure everything checks out, and then send this off to print and then show the final results. So that pretty much wraps up today's tutorial. In this tutorial, we pretty much covered exactly how to make this 3D printable, stackable, and foldable storage crate. This is kind of a lengthy tutorial, but it's actually quite a simple design to make. You just need to make sure that the measurements and the parts and pieces actually snap in, and as well as they're also able to fold in. But with that said, if you're interested in joining the 14-day design challenge and want to get access to more tutorials, guides, and resources just like this, and you want to further your skill set around 3D printing, or maybe even build a business from this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a link down below in the description. Make sure to join the 14-day challenge down below. But with that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.